We are knee-deep into the spring anime season, and Spy Family is all the rage and seems to be all that people are talking about. So of course, I'm going to talk about a show from last season instead. Because I finally got around to watching the rom-com My Dress-Up Darling, after ignoring several recommendations from friends. Not because I thought I wouldn't like it, I'm just a bad person. And I have to say that watching Darling...
Daddy?
Nope, wrong show. Watching Dress Up Darling hit a really strong chord for me in a way that, quite frankly, I don't think any other anime really has quite yet. So I wanted to take a video to talk briefly on how a show that maybe from the outside looks like just another rom-com actually hits on some messages that I think are pretty neat to see represented and not just as a joke. My Dress Up Darling is about our boy Gojo. He lives with his grandfather who runs a shop for Hina dolls and dreams of one day being able to make Hina dolls as great as his grandfather's. He also feels self-conscious around others because he feels like his interests are so different from everyone else and the norm that it's almost something to be ashamed of. And as such, he's become a bit of a loner. And then we also get Kitagawa, our bright and bubbly main girl who has always found herself as the center of attention. Secretly, though, she's been dreaming of cosplaying all her favorite characters from games, manga, and anime, but lacks the sewing prowess to do so. When the two have a chance encounter, she learns that Gojo is a very adept sewer due to his work on Hina dolls, and he agrees to help get her into the outfits that she dreams of. And of course, as a result of working so closely together, hijinks and feelings for each other ensue, as rom-coms do. But, to be quite honest, neither the romance nor the comedy are what pulled me into this show. Rather, it was a recurring theme throughout the show's run that I was thrilled to see. And it was this line from the early moments of the second episode that made me realize, oh, I'm gonna love this show.
Besides, when you find something that you're really excited about, does gender matter?
That right there made me realize this show was gonna be a winner. Because it wasn't just some quick throwaway line, they kept hitting on this and similar themes. Later on into the show, after making Kitagawa's first outfit, the two head off to a cosplay event. While there, they see, go figure, many people cosplaying. Included among them are a slew of people dressed up as characters of different genders, girls dressed as guys and guys dressed as girls. Perhaps it's just exposure to a lot of, frankly, crappy jokes in anime or anime-adjacent content in regards to stuff like this. But I wasn't prepared for Gojo's reaction to seeing it. While initially surprised by seeing so many people willing to dress as a different gender, he very quickly drew the connection of, oh, yeah, they're dressing as someone they love and doing something that they love, so who cares? They're living their life. And that was that. There was no punchline, just that casual and extremely positive observation. And what I love is how we then get to see Gojo start to internalize these observations through the show and allow himself to be more of just his unbridled self around Kitagawa. He takes these observations and these lessons and grows as a person. Throughout his life, Gojo has been viewed as the weird outcast. This is not a result of his interests, but rather a result of how he thinks his interests would be perceived by others. What kind of boy wants to design dolls for a living? I should be playing games or keeping up to date with the latest shows or something more in line with my peers. People will think I'm weird. It ultimately becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy for him. Kitagawa's influence and his exposure into the cosplay and anime communities help him come to understand that just because his interests don't slot into a gender norm does not therefore make him abnormal. And we see how positively this change affects him through his own increased happiness through the show and Kitagawa's falling for him. When Kitagawa and Gojo first meet and work on their arrangement, she's extremely, we'll say, comfortable around him. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that this show is also very horny. At this point, Gojo is still the very self-conscious social recluse, and Kitagawa is just seeing everything as more or less business. The romance doesn't start to bloom until after Gojo has allowed himself to come out of his shell and embrace who he is, after he's learned to be comfortable with himself and to allow people to get close to him. It's such a positive message that you can surround yourself with people who are good for you by letting yourself be you, that you attract the right kinds of people by being your honest self, as long as your honest self isn't a douchebag. But we don't see the show end with, oh hey, neat, Gojo learned a lesson and now he's better off for it. No, we actually then get to see Gojo become a teacher and pass this lesson along. Later on, we meet Kitagawa's favorite cosplayer, Juju, and subsequently, Juju's younger sister, Shinju. Shinju sees how amazing cosplaying can be and wants nothing more than to do it too. However, she feels self-conscious because the characters that she wants to bring to life are not only outside her gender, but her body type. She's too afraid to bring it up to her sister or to try on her own because she feels like if she tried dressing as a character her body doesn't, quote, allow, she would upset her sister in some way for doing a bad job. Gojo then gets to spend some prolonged time with her and share what he's learned from earlier cosplayer exposure, saying that the joy of cosplaying comes from being whoever and whatever you want, and that you should never let your body, your gender, or fears of someone else's reactions stop you. Now, while yes, it can be seen in the show as just being an excuse to get a plethora of boobies are big jokes going, I feel like the sincerity that comes through during their talks and her finished reveal still carry the importance of that message. Of course, the show still has all your typical rom-com trimmings with the oh, what a predicament situations, fan service, misunderstandings, and good old-fashioned failed communication. But I was surprised by these other aspects, and it's really what I wanted to focus on when talking about this show. As a rom-com, yeah, the show was fine. Like I said, it certainly went down and hit the checklist of what most seem to have, but there was an underlying heartfelt message of being who you want to be that I connected with so much more. How you should take pride in what you enjoy despite what it feels like society says you should. How you aren't bound by whatever invisible rules your gender says you should be allowed to do, or to wear, or to think. It's a topic that I plan on going way deeper into, but I think I'm saving that for my 500 subscriber milestone for the channel, so look forward to that down the road. For now though, if you didn't catch My Dress Up Darling back when it was airing last season, I sincerely recommend giving it a shot. For a frankly by-the-books rom-com with a healthy dose of fan service, it has a surprisingly touching message underneath. It's a show that I've found myself referring to as wholesomely horny, and I stand by that. I'd like to give a big shout out to my anonymous $20 patron, and to everyone else who supports me on Patreon. If you'd like to take a moment to do all that typical YouTube stuff, please go ahead and do so. Also, feel free to check me out on Patreon, and consider helping me to make more and better content. Until next time, I'm TJ Pecor, the Angry Avocado, and I still don't have a sign-off.